When it comes to leadership, you often think that labels are something that we need. Is it your job title? Is it your department title? Is it your title? Is it yourself that gets labels? And we have someone who's an expert on actually leading without labels. Hello and welcome, Merry Carole Powers.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I, ca- I, I get straight into it. Labels are there for a very, very long time. How do you want to achieve that suddenly people think either beyond labels, with less labels, or even without labels at all? Let's just start with for example, DEI labels. People identify as X, Y, or Z, and then of course immediately people will draw conclusions from that. What is your take on that? How can we work better without labels?
Thank you. I think first thing is to say there's a place for labels,
Mm-hmm.
and they help us organize. They help us understand. And when it is as simple as like the category and the organization, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when we take that to DEI labels, I don't want to villainize the fact that I identify as a white female, let's just
Yeah.
say, right? That's okay. Those very labels are the things that locked people out of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's appropriate that they be the keys to let us back into opportunity. But once that opportunity is a little more democratized, what can we do beyond those labels to help
Mm-hmm.
people find more of themselves? Because the truth is, none of us fit into any set of labels. We're all vastly more than any one label could define as us. And so to your point, that's where labels start to hold us back.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's like, oh, well, we just sort of believe women aren't good at leadership. And
Yeah.
we just believe this about nationality and we believe this about ethnicity. And all of these things just we sort of just check the box like, okay, we got people in the door. Cool. And when the truth is, our identity is the very surface of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you click under that, there's our individuality. And those are the things that would identify us or would define us regardless of our labels.
Mm.
So, for example, I would be a writer. I was born with that ability. I started getting paid in sixth grade to do this.
Nice.
I could have been any race, any ethnicity. I could have born in any country. I would still have that. So
Mm-hmm.
what can we do is look at the more enduring things that
Mm.
live in what I'll call our human essence that
Mm-hmm.
we can
Great
use
term.
to really understand how to help people and how to
Mm.
bring people together. And if we all have them, right?
Yeah,
So we're all the same in different ways is like a fun way to say
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Human essence, I think, is a very, very, very good term because let's face it, no matter if we're in Europe or if we are in the US, many corporations are organized with these labels. Just saying, and of course, no one talks about this publicly, but of course, someone says, hey, look, you have too many people of that kind, so could you please hire two people of that kind? And we also need like two gay people and two lesbian people. And do you know anyone who is transgender? So it's basically tick the box diversity. How can we give, because often people say, yeah, it's a bit of a nuisance. However, it gives me some sort of direction. When they now say we get rid of these labels, how can we do that without running the risk immediately to fall back into patterns where they suddenly just either hire people who are close to themselves, hire people who they just know, or hire people who are similar to them? When we get rid of these labels, how can we prevent the risk of just falling back behind in progress?
So I think what we do is we use the labels, then we peel them back. I like to say take the checkbox and turn it into a rabbit hole,
Ah,
right?
mm-hmm,
So, okay, don't go back to all one color, all one age, all one anything. The
mm-hmm.
data is there to prove that's just a
Yeah,
bad business
yeah,
move,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So, you want to shoot yourself in the foot, I can't stop you, but I wouldn't encourage you to do
Yeah.
that. So, once and see that this is where I think the opportunity lives for DEI right now. It's really been shoved into a corner, it's really been beaten back. And what we're seeing is companies are sort of starting to come back as this quiet rebrand. But what it's basically being doing is like being hidden as a talent play or as an awareness play. And or we're going to call it belonging now and not DEI. But again, that's just another label.
Mm.
So how do we take it and turn it from representation into recognition and take it from, getting people in the door to developing human beings?
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep the labels or let's keep our eyes open. Let's just say that and make sure we don't all look the same, sound the same, act the same.
Yeah.
And then once in the door, let's look at each person. what do they have going for them that, maybe didn't matter on a job description, but that can make all the difference as a
Mm,
leader? So,
excellent.
yeah, I think dig deeper would be my
Yeah.
answer.
Absolutely. And I mean, you worked for Deloitte, so you work with all the large corporations on these matters. But let's move away from the DEI labels. When we, for example, say job titles, people are, let's say, obsessed with job titles. At one corporation where I had a consultancy gig, I asked, what is actually the job of and then I was quoting, Senior Vice President of Global Operations, Expenditure and Expansion. And they said, yeah, well, he has a lot of plates spinning. Where I said, yeah, probably, because that looks like 15 jobs for one person. And
Right.
and they couldn't really define anything else except overseeing people who do these kind of tasks. So it wasn't really defined what the job was. And of course, people were making fun of that kind of who is the SVP of this and SVP of coffee making. People are often still obsessed with job titles because they say, I only can become a senior vice president when I was a vice president at an earlier stage in my career. So I'm sticking to these job titles because they give me progress when I change jobs somewhere else. How can I move away from these?
Well, the first thing I'd say is let's redefine progress
Mm-hmm.
because it's not level jumping, right? It's what you learn on the level. And when you learn and grow on, let's call it the, junior vice president level,
Mm-hmm.
that level is going to lift you up itself. You don't have to go digging and jumping and fighting, tooth and nail to get there because the skills you picked up, the insights you picked up will be recognized.
Mm-hmm.
So one, people aren't really caring about progress. They just want
Mm-hmm.
to wield that title, that label as like a power wield, as like a look at me. I have
Mm-hmm.
this. And so if we're going to peel back the labels and come from empathy, what is it that makes you feel like you're not good enough as you are? How do we take that shortcoming and turn it into a true strength versus
Mm-hmm.
a pretend strength, which is your label,
Yeah.
right? Which is your title. And you really want to do that because if that person's going up the ranks, if that like title jumper is hopping the ranks, they're not learning how to develop the people with them. They're not learning how to inspire the people
Mm-hmm.
they're leading. And if they're not doing that, then we have that's not a one person problem. That's an
Oh yeah.
exponential many people problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, let's stop rewarding that behavior to answer your
Mm-hmm.
question. Second of all, let's rather than just shove it away, let's realize we live in what I read recently on Substack was called the nonsense economy,
Mm-hmm.
meaning these jobs that are absolute nonsense,
Yeah.
that just people are talking and talking around one another and having meetings about meetings, but nobody's
Doing
doing anything.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So let's figure out how to unpack that. And then let's also see if you can help that person find more in
Yeah.
themselves. The more we do that, the more we all get better because that person then will lead and help others.
Mm. Excellent. And when we now go from job titles even to department, let's say department labels, we know, and of course, especially in corporations, you probably know these kind of meetings. You move into a certain consultancy gig or into any kind of work gig, and you basically need 3 months to only decipher the abbreviations people use, only for departments. And oh yeah, the DVTOP, and don't mix it up with the DVPOA, which is a completely different thing. So people sit there and think, what are we actually doing here? So these department labels, these departmental labels are so deeply ingrained into culture, into organizations, into communication patterns. How can we get, I don't want to say rid of them, but how can we move beyond them to anything where people still say that makes sense, or that gives any kind of sense to me, at least personally? Because let's face it, some departments already have a reputation. When someone says you're going to have a call with HR, most people say that's not going to be the best day of the week, will it? So, how can we move away from department labels?
I love this question. So again, I'll go back to like department labels to help us understand the structure of a company. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. You know which door to walk through
Yeah.
when you're going to your job, right? But department labels have become these like little clicks. Departments have become these little clicks, right? And I'll get into a specific example that we talk a lot about in my company, which is so in the world of sales and marketing, there is SQLs and MQLs, right? These sales qualified leads and these
Mm-hmm.
marketing qualified leads.
Mm-hmm.
And each of these departments are chasing a different set of metrics that define success for them. And those two sets of metrics don't create success for the bigger picture, which is
Mm-hmm.
we all need to close the deal. That's what's going to save our jobs. That's what's going to
Yeah.
give us the money to develop our people, like all of those things, right? So, what was created as a way to cooperate is actually a way to divide. That's what's happening. It's like, oh, marketing's not doing their part. These leads aren't
Mm-hmm.
quality. Oh, sales isn't doing their part. They don't know how to close a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, like, so everybody's like blaming everybody else. Nobody's working together. And the whole point of these two kinds of leads was to make for a graceful handoff.
Yeah.
And all it's making for is a not graceful kind of, slap in the face. So often divisiveness is disguised as cooperation, and we just keep doing the same thing over and over because that's what we know to do
Mm-hmm.
till we're told a better way. So, what we just took the qualified leads out of what we do. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist. It doesn't exist. We're not doing leads. We're going to meet these three benchmarks for anything to be considered success, but we're all working towards this as an example.
Excellent. And now you've written a book about all this, The Great Human Rebrand. Can you tell us more about your book, please?
Yes, thank you. The book is based on for the early decade and a half of my relationship of my career.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in global branding and advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and with just the huge brands that we all know, the big beer brands, the big computer brands, all of
Okay.
them, big
Mm-hmm.
food brands. And what I found along the way was the power of a label. What we could do with the label of a product.
Mm-hmm.
We put all kinds of money in it. We'd make it look slick. We'd put a big story around it. We'd make it stand for something people wanted to be a part of. And
Mm-hmm.
then we'd put out these messages that, what I mean, drew them to it. You could influence and manipulate people to spend money, to show up
Absolutely.
at events, to click this, follow that, like whatever the call of the day was. And I started looking around and I was like, wow, advertising's not the only people using this. I see it in politics. I
Mm-hmm.
see it in religion. I see it in the culture, a family culture. You're either a part of this label or you're not. That's either good or it's bad. And then it's just stirring up the way people act and think around that. So, in learning to use labels and build them, I also realized I had, kind of a little personal wake up in my life that a lot of people comes through like a sadness. I had a death. And I was like, whoa, look at what we're doing to help products. Why aren't we using these great skills to help people? People are monumentally more important. And that became a big life shift for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like if I know how to use a label to manipulate, I also know how to dismantle a label to help people think more clearly, succeed more individually. And so the book was born on all of that. Takes everything you learn to make a cornflake, the most basic thing in the world, the most
Mm-hmm.
boring thing in the world, the biggest parody product you could ever have that happens to be a billionaire. Take those same skills and reapply them from products to people so that people can succeed. So this particular book is how to step out of your labels. First of all, see where you're being
Yeah.
manipulated by your labels. Second of all, see what's under them, how to like peel back that label and really find your individuality. And then once you have a better sense of that, how to monetize that. How to succeed is who you are, not who the
Mm.
world's telling you you should be.
Excellent. I think these are almost the perfect final words. When someone is now listening to this or watching this on YouTube and they say, I'd like to get in touch. How can they get more of you, more content of you, or just get in touch with you personally?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me personally through my website. It's marycarole.com or it's thegreathumanrebrand.com. Both of those take you to the same place. You can grab the book on Amazon, and the book has a lot, as much as you can in a book, a lot of specific workshopping pieces, exercises to help you better understand, because these are very big concepts, to help you better understand and apply them to yourself. So those are two great ways.
Brilliant. These are the perfect final words. So you see, labels are there and give us orientation. However, working with labels, beyond labels, or without labels can be beneficial. And we have the expert here, Merry Carole Powers. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.